Welcome back to Philippines Uncut. I'm Buddy Conanan. Tonight's topic is Enchanted Kingdom, where the magic lives on. And joining us is the chairman, president, and founder of Enchanted Kingdom, the happiest place in the Philippines, I think, Mr. Cesar Mamon. Mr. Mamon, welcome back to our second segment. Now, very nice videos we've been showing about Enchanted Kingdom, but let's talk about the business side. Alam niyo po, nung mag-umpisa tayo, sinabi ko nga, we've been focusing on entrepreneurs. And that's why I'm very excited to have you here, because I said, your business is very unique. You're probably the only person who's really, started a theme park like this. Now, my question po to you is, what inspired you to start a business like this? It wasn't in your background to be in the leisure entertainment business. So, bakit po theme park yung inumpisa niya?
Oh, totoo yun, Buddy, kasi among the group of friends and relatives that really thought about this,
yes.
No? I was in agriculture, my brother-in-law, Lito Minguez, was in finance, plus some other friends who were also in other things, no. But we felt, why not a theme park? Everybody was going into food and merchandise and retail, and as I said at that time, our families were starting, they were growing. We were bringing our children to what was available locally and what was available close by in Hong Kong, perhaps. But why not here in the Philippines? Why don't we have something like this? So that was the thing that's got us going.
Opo.
But since we didn't know anything about the amusement and attractions industry, we had to ask around. We had to write people, we had to read about it. At that time, wala pa halos internet.
Ang hirap po nun, yes. No? Manual po lahat nun. You had to research, really.
But somehow, after writing the big one, siyempre, gawa tayong theme park. Sulat tayo sa Disney, sulat tayo sa Universal. Hindi kami sinagot. Pero isa sumagot sa amin at that time. Malaki na rin, kilala na rin. This was Knott's Berry Farm.
Yes, very famous po.
Yes. At that time, it was still family-owned. No? Not unlike now, it's already a publicly listed company. So, interesado sila, pupunta sila dito, ganon, and we talk. But in the end, sabi namin, we'll be paying royalties to them.
Okay. You originally planned to start Knott's Berry Farm dito sa Pilipinas.
Yes, because at that time, they were looking at Mexico, they were looking at Japan. So, timing sana, pwede dito sa Philippines. Pero nung nakita namin yung proposal, sabi natin, we'll be working for them. No? So sabi namin, baka mas maganda magsimula na lang tayo from scratch. At that time, we were also exposed to an association known as IAAPA, International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. They had conferences, they had trade shows, and we became members in 1992. And that's really the signal for us to meet designers, consultants, and manufacturers.
Opo.
So, yun talaga malaki nakatulong sa amin para makapagsimula.
Opo.
And ako naman, I remained active in that association. And in fact, I became a member of the board in 1999 to 2002. I remained active after that. And I became chairman in 2014, the first Asian and the first Filipino.
Wow, impressive, sir. Huh?
So, kahit papano, kahit maliit lang yung Enchanted Kingdom, it was placed in the amusement and attractions industry map because of what I was able to achieve coming up with Enchanted Kingdom.
Coming from scratch, really.
From scratch talaga. At we were in the Asian region, and the growth of the industry is really here in Asia. But going back siguro, yun nga, parang it was that association that really started us off. And as they say, conceptualization to groundbreaking to grand opening, that happened from 1993 to 1995. So we broke ground in August of 94, and we opened to the public. Grand opening was October 19, 1995.
Yes. I mean, this is not an ordinary business. It's a huge business, even to start. So I guess really it takes a few years from conceptualization to rolling out, the final product.
Yes. In our case, mabilis na nga yun eh. Kasi nga parang at that time, there was sort of some talk about other groups going into the business. And we wanted to be first. So kahit pa paano, in-accelerate namin yon. fortunately or unfortunately, kami lang yung pumasok sa negosyo dahil nga after 2 years, nandiyan yung financial crisis. And then, it really needed a big amount of investment, a lot of guts, which
Of
we had.
course. Wow.
And yun nga, the rest is history, so to speak.
Have you always been interested in this business? I mean, some people, they start business like Richie Kun of ice cream. He told me he always loved ice cream. That's why he sees it in the moment. Have you always loved this kind of business, theme parks and such po?
I was always inspired by what Walt Disney did. So in a way, Disney and what he was able to do from the first Disneyland in Anaheim was an inspiration. And of course, he came out with the original Disneyland because he wanted a clean and wholesome place where he could bring his two daughters. And at that time in the States, siguro, wala rin siya makita kundi mga carnivals and county fairs. So, tinuloy niya yung kanyang vision. No? Parang ganun din yung ginawa namin. It's also for our family.
Opo. And as you mentioned po, there are several zones and may iba-ibang tema po yung
Yes.
park ninyo. Did you somehow pattern it after this inspiration from Disney, from Disneyland? Kasi yung Disneyland, ganun din. Parang may Tomorrowland, may iba-ibang mga Fantasyland, like that. May castle din sila.
In a way, parang ganun din yon. Parang hindi lang namin sinunod exactly. But of course, we chose some zones that we thought would appeal to the Filipino. So meron kaming Victorian zone, meron kaming parang Coney Island, meron parang Amazon Jungle, may Space, may Brooklyn backlot, which is like a Universal Studios backlot, and then yung Portobello nga yung Caribbean Fort. So in a way, parang Disney model in terms of having different theming for the different zones, but not exactly like that. It's a typical theme park.
Opo. Paano niyo po kinonceptualize yung themes po ng kada zone ng Enchanted Kingdom? How did you come up with the themes and the images and that kind of thing po?
Well, ito kinailangan na namin dito yung foreign consultants and designers because they had the experience. Most of them have worked with Disney and Universal and the other parks in the States. So we commissioned a group at that time called Landmark Entertainment. No? And Landmark Entertainment was responsible for such attractions as the Sanrio Hello Kitty parks in Japan, which are still operating, and some of the World Expo booths in Korea, and then also attractions in Universal, such as at that time Conan the Barbarian, and more recently Terminator and Jurassic. There's the head of this group was a guy named Gary Goddard, no, and he's still very popular now because he designed a number of the casino resorts in Macau and also some in China. So siya yung nakuha namin designer. No, and of course, he had a very good team, no, who were on site here. My art director who was on site for 3 years from construction up to implementation. And they were the ones that suggested to us the different theming, the different treatments for each of the zone, the different rides, no, and even the mascot and the characters.
Okay.
So there was a story that was created for it.
How about these days po? How do you come up with your let's say new attractions? Do you still rely on outside consultants, or do you do this in house?
For the last 5 years, what we've been doing was that experiencing it. Because nga I mentioned that I became chairman of the International Association, it enabled me to travel all around the world and see, of course, all the Disney parks, all the Universal parks, and anything in between. And it is in our travels around the world, even in South America, that Mrs. Mamon and I enjoy and experience different kinds of attractions. And if it's something that we feel the Philippine market will like, then it's something that we invested in.
Opo.
And that has happened. Parang in-experience namin muna sa labas. Sabi namin, magugustuhan siguro ito, tas dito. But moving forward into the future, with the bigger area that we are developing, we are again relying on more experienced people who can help us with the design and the concepts. But of course, with our input,
Opo.
because of our experience na, of our learned experiences over the past 20 years.
Opo. Alam niyo po, Mr. Mamon, when people like me go to Enchanted Kingdom, we have a great time, excellent time. You know, everyone has fun. You know, everything works. It's one cohesive operation. What we don't see is what happens behind the scenes. What is it like to run a theme park? Is it a fun enterprise to work in, to run?
The key word is fun. You should be able to have fun in yourself, or you should be a happy person to be able to bring that out and share that with other people. So as much as possible, we try to bring that in all of our employees or cast members, as we call them, because we call them cast members. Incidentally, that's how Disneyland calls their employees, because once they go into the park, it's like they're on a stage. And everything they do is like a performance. Whether they just pour soft drinks or they run the rides, parang it's a performance. And it's how people or our guests will look at them.
Yes.
No? So it's a serious business. You really have to look at your revenues, you have to look at your cost. But you never forget to look at what your guests want.
Opo.
You have to lend an ear to what you hear, whether positive or negative, and look at them very constructively, because it will help you to be able to perpetuate the business. And I think we've been very successful with that, because over the past 20 years, we've been there, we've survived, doing very well and ready to go into the next decade. So we've been listening, and we've been looking at other things from abroad, those that we can afford and we think are suitable here, and implementing them.
How many employees do you have in Enchanted Kingdom?
We have close to 800 employees,
Wow.
more or less.
Opo.
Depends on the time of the year.
Yes.
And of those 800, we have about 400 who are really regular employees.
Opo. And I guess a lot of operations just to maintain everything, to make sure everything, as I've said, runs seamlessly and operates well. It must be a lot of work as well. Huh?
Yes, because we adhere to international standards. We have to really see to it that we can be as safe as possible. And that means, for example, maintaining our rides as if, for example, they were aircraft or airplanes. They have preventive maintenance schedules on a daily, weekly,
Wow.
monthly, and annual basis, and before they're turned over to operations to run
Opo.
during an operational day. If there are some things that are not safe or some things are not correct, then we don't open a particular attraction to the public.
See, this is what we don't see. All the little things that go into making the rides work perfectly and keeping us safe. No?
Yes,
All
yes.
these little things, but a lot of work. Yeah.
It is a lot of work and a lot of detail that has to be taken
Yes.
care of. And most of this are done when we are closed, or even after the park is closed. No? In the evenings, when we have to open the following day, we really have to work on a lot of things.
So it's like almost non-stop operation. When you think about opening at times, you entertain visitors, and after it's the maintenance, a lot of work po. Huh?
Totoo yun. I never realized that I would go into a business wherein when people go on holidays, that's the time
You
we
guys are working.
busiest, like Christmas.
Mr. Maman, we have pause our break, but when we come back, we'll talk about the marketing side and how you guys are reaching out to your new customers and how you're keeping Enchanted Kingdom relevant today as it was 20 years ago and moving to the future. So guys, more of Enchanted Kingdom when Philippines Uncut returns.